Hey everybody, this is another piano tutorial, and today's focus is on playing music without sheet music. And just a real quick, I don't know how to read sheet music, so that's what I have to do. And just to give you a quick example, when I first started learning how to do this, it was real simple. Octaves in the left hand and chords in the right hand, right? Real simple. And so just for a frame of reference, in case you are very much a beginner, we're going to call the note right here the 1. Okay, this is the C, but we're going to call it 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1. Okay, so now when we make our chords in the right hand, we're playing every other white note. Okay, so this is our C chord, C triad. And then what we're going to do is, for the purpose of this tune, we're going to start our thumb on C sometimes. We're going to start our thumb on the 4, right? So the 1, the 4, again, every other note, the 5, every other note, and the 6, every other note. Okay, so real simple. Right, so those are the chords we're going to use. Okay, left hand octaves on the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6. Now we're not going to keep it in that order. All right, we're going to make it a little bit more interesting. So the first thing I would suggest you do is to work your ability to jump in these octaves from either going from the 1 up to the 4 or from the 1 down to the 4, right? And using the pedal, I can lift my hand up and sustain that note, or I can not use the pedal and you hear how that sound stops. So maybe going back and forth. Right, and it has a different quality if I go higher, or, right, so higher, lower. That's just going between the 1 and the 4. Now let's say we wanted to make this a little bit more interesting. Let's go from the 1 to the 5, and then back to the 4. Okay, so 1, 5, 4. And so when I'm adding in those fill notes, it's just the notes that are already in the chord. So within the C, I can really hit any of them in any order I want, because they're notes that are contained inside the chord. All right, so what I did there is I changed the inversion, right? So far, if this is really beginner for you, you probably want to start keeping your thumb on that note that we're talking about, whether it's the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5, the 6, right? My thumb is always the root position. Later on, we'll talk about going to different inversions, and that's going to really help your playing a lot. So initially, just get good at this. 1, 5, 4, or going lower with it. Now we're up to the 6. Back down to the 4. 5, 6. 5, 4. I'll count 1, 5, 4. Now higher. 1, 5, 4, 5, 6. right, so really just taking those 3 chords and kind of bouncing around, right? Really those 4 chords, because there were times when I was up on the 6, right? So the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6. So kind of a simple way to approach just starting to be able to improvise, right? And we talked a little bit about the different inversions. So let's take a look at the right hand. That's our 1 chord, right? My thumb's on middle C, every other white note. Now, if I want to play that same C chord and I just move these same notes up the keyboard, right? This C, if I were to play it on top, so now I'm going to change my hand position. So that's a C. That's called first inversion. And then let's say I wanted to play the thumb on the G, and that's the second inversion, right? So those are the 3 different positions to play that C triad. Root position, first inversion, second inversion. And the way to identify that is thumb on the C, pinky on the C, middle finger on the C. Right? So if you work on just getting your hand to those different shapes, and that will help you be able to get there quickly. So if we're moving, now I can apply what we just talked about to the other chords, right? Because it's the same thing. Especially in the key of C. They're all white notes. So starting on 1 in the root position, right? Thumb on the 1. Let's say I want to go to the G, right? The 5. Well, my pinky's already there. So see how I did that? I left my pinky on the G. And then I just moved that same shape down. That's a whole lot easier to do than going like this. Right? You have to jump. Your hand has to travel a lot further of a distance. So make it easy. The left hand still has to jump, but if the right hand doesn't have to go that far, it makes things easier. So what did I do there? Just kind of bouncing around with different inversions. So if you take a look at this, I'm on the 6, right? And it might not look like I'm on the 6 if you're a beginner and you don't see things as quickly. I remember when I was first getting started, I couldn't see things. I was always relating things to the bottom note, so I would think that this was the 3 chord, right? 1, 2, 3. But really it's the inversion of the 6. So that's first inversion. So that was just running the notes of the chord in an arpeggio, right? From one inversion to another. Root position. And holding down the pedal so it sustains. So if you look at just taking those different chords and you just experiment with doing them in different orders, right? And sometimes you're going to like the way it sounds and sometimes you're not. Going from the 1 to the 5 to the 4, that sounds pretty cool. Now, it's not that that doesn't sound cool, but it's got definitely a different quality to it, right? Up to the 6. Again, what's the emotion you're trying to convey? So right now, with very limited knowledge, right, we're talking about 4 different chords. We could even do 3. We could leave the 6 out of it, but I think that's a nice quality. Now, incidentally, when we're on the 6, it's actually a minor chord. And the 1 is a major chord, and the 4 is a major chord, and the 5 is a major chord. But when we get to the 6, right, this is actually an A minor. So it has a slightly different quality to it, but it works really well. So I was playing around a little bit, just bouncing around, doing some different inversions, and maybe adding in a little bit of embellishment. But just to kind of show you, with using really simple ideas, you can sit down and you can start playing stuff that is pleasing, right? And the more you do it, the more confidence you get with it. I would definitely encourage you to start just getting really good at moving your left hand, right? Maybe start right moving one step at a time, or not one step, but like a whole step, or I should say one white note at a time to be more clear. So all right, so take those octaves and maybe walk them up from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 1, sometimes called 8. Maybe walk it down. Right, and then bounce from keeping that octave shape in your left hand. So here I am with the 1, and then maybe I'm holding the pedal down and I'm going to move my hand to the 5, 4, right? That's without the pedal. Walk back up to the 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, and 1. So get good at your left hand, right? It's a really good idea to practice these things separately. So when we put them together, we can use root positions. We can use first inversions. Can use second inversions, right? So, and we can do that on the 1, on the 4, on the 5, on the 6. Right, here's an example. I'm going to use lots of different inversions as I go through the 1, 5, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Okay, so root, first inversion, second inversion, root, now this is root, first inversion, Now back to root. So some of that was root, and now it's first inversion. Second inversion. All right. So if you play around with these different inversions and just maybe a different order and when you go to these different chords, and just see what you like, right? The part of improvising, in my opinion, is doing things over and over, listening to what it sounds like, making a mental note of, oh, I like the way that sounds, or I like the way the C sounds in this inversion more than I like it in this inversion. Sometimes you just want to go for that, you know, that sound of having the C on top. Or now the C's in the middle. Or now the C's on the bottom. And part of improvising too is not always keeping things in time, right? There's a term called rubato. Sometimes rubato, and the way I use it, sometimes I use it just because I can't think of where I want to go right away. So I have this dramatic pause, and so sometimes it kind of sounds that way. But sometimes rubato is done on purpose to get out of time, and it gives a dramatic effect, right? So that sound right there is keeping the 1 in your left hand while you go to the 4 in your right hand. And then change back to the 1. Has a nice ending sound. I'm sure there's a term for that, and I don't know what it is, but that's a nice, pleasant way to end that. So that's installment number 1 of playing music at the piano without reading music. And just, I guess this is really like an improvisation course or tutorial, and I'll continue to do additional follow-up videos. If you like this video, please click the like button. Maybe leave me a comment. Let me know what else you'd like to know about improvisation. I'm not super knowledgeable when it comes to music theory, but I have been playing piano for many years, and I've done it all without knowing how to read music, so I know that you can too. All right, again, click that like button, subscribe so you can get more content, and I'll see you on the next one.